Every week, our movie guy brings us a list of the latest movies we need to see, skip, or rent. And this week, we're going to take a look back at some of these classics that a lot of people have overlooked. I'm going to tell you, I've overlooked a lot of these because a lot of these I've never heard of. But what's really cool is Will Meyer, our movie guy here, you found some of these that have a tie-in with UT.
Yeah, many of these actually have ties to Knoxville. And so, in the wake of the Oscars in the recent weeks, it's a time that a lot of people, including myself, like to sort of gripe about the results. And, there's a lot of great movies that often get overlooked. So I thought I'd highlight, some of the great classics that didn't give the attention that they deserved at the time.
The first one here is Sullivan's Travels. Is this a more recent film?
No. This was actually made 75 years ago now, and so it's very old. But this is a classic that didn't get the attention it deserved at the time, but now it's in the top 100 films of all time by the American Film Institute. And this movie is a comedy that tells the story of this guy named Sullivan, who's this really successful movie director, but he's also very naive, and he sets out to make a movie about the troubles of the downtrodden poor. And much to the chagrin of his producers, he sets out with a single dime in his pocket and to experience what it's like to be poor firsthand. However, he gets much more than he bargained for. This is a movie where he ends up going out and he ends up being in jail and poor himself. And when that happens, he realizes that these movies that he once made that he thought were silly and very trivial actually have the power to really make people laugh and to bring them a lot of joy. And so it really examines the question of, what's the value of movies? Are they here to entertain us or to enlighten us? And so, this movie asserts the notion that these movies that make us laugh and forget our troubles for a while have a lot more value than those that reflect the problems of the world. So, the Oscars just happened and they had their lowest ratings in years, and so people really aren't still seeing these very serious movies. They want to see something entertaining. So 75 years after its release, it's still a really relevant movie today, I think.
And it speaks to how something can change and how it may not get great critical acclaim, but now it does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our next one is A Face in the Crowd, and this is a 50s film.
Yeah, this came out set in the late 50s, and it tells the tale of a drunken drifter who is plucked out of a rural Arkansas jail by a producer to sing on a local TV show. He soon becomes a national TV sensation, but as he becomes drunk with fame and power, will he ever become exposed as the fraud that he's become? And this is a movie that's kind of a hidden gem, and it's thought of as being a great film, but the most surprising and exciting thing about this movie is that this main character is played by Andy Griffith. He plays a mean and nasty drunk here and is the total opposite of, Sheriff Taylor from the Andy Griffith Show or Matlock. And what's even more surprising is that he's a great performance and reveals himself as a great actor. He's simultaneously mean and nasty, but he's also charming, he's pitiful, he's sympathetic, and so he hits all these notes at the same time, and it's really impressive. It also stars Patricia Neal, who's a Knoxville native, and she gives a great performance here, as well as Walter Matthau. And this movie was ahead of its time, as it's one of the first movies to really examine the relationship between media and politics and the cult of celebrity. So for many reasons, I think this is a great film and one you should definitely seek out.
Our next one is a Charlie Chaplin film, and it's Monsieur Bordeaux.
Yes, this is a one that you probably haven't heard of. This is the first movie that Charlie Chaplin deviated from his tramp character, the iconic character he created, and it's also a talkie. It's not a silent film. And in this movie, he plays a suave but cynical man who murders rich women for their money in order to support his family, but this job has some occupational hazards. And this movie was completely hated by everyone at the time of its release. It was actually boycotted in Memphis and wasn't shown, really mostly throughout Tennessee. People really didn't like it for a couple of reasons. One is that they didn't know how to feel about it. It's kind of a black comedy. You feel like you should not like this guy because he's killing these women, but at the same time, it's really funny too, and so you kind of laugh along and sort of root for him, and people didn't know how to take that. Also, the message of this film didn't sit well with people. It was 2 years after World War II when patriotic sentiments were high, and this movie had some a pacifist message about anti-war, and so people really didn't like that. But it's still a really interesting movie and one that's still really funny. I don't think the message really works with the anti-war message works with the rest of the film, but James Agee, the film critic from Knoxville, actually said this is one of the best movies of the century, and I certainly agree with him. It's definitely worth seeing.
And speaking of James Agee, the fourth one was actually written by him.
Yes, The Night of the Hunter. This is a great horror film, and it's absolutely in my top 5 favorite movies of all time. It's centered around a reverend turned serial killer who uses his charms to woo this unsuspecting widow and her 2 children in order to steal a fortune that was hidden by her dead husband. And this was written by James Agee. It stars Robert Mitchum, Lillian Gish, and Shelley Winters, and it was directed by Charles Laughton. And he actually never directed another movie again after this because it was received so poorly at the time. But now, this is thought of as an absolute masterpiece. And this is a movie that I think was hard to categorize for people. On one hand, it's this really biblical tale of good and evil, but it's also stylistically very strange. It's been described as a nightmarish Mother Goose tale. It uses these these artificial sets and music and cinematography to create this really like fairy tale world that's just really beautiful and kind of weird and mesmerizing. And so it's a lot to dissect, but also above all, it's absolutely terrifying. Robert Mitchum, I think, gives the best performance of his career here and creates this iconic screen villain, and it's just really, really scary, and I mean, just a really great film all around.
All right, Will Meyer giving us some classics, some older movies to watch, maybe on a rainy Saturday. Not too bad.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much.